So, can you tell us a little bit more about your background and your experience as part of the Henley community?
Yeah, so my background, Sandra, I qualified in the whole area of industrial automation. So came up the engineering, computer science route. And early on in my career, I kind of repositioned into general IT, so selling hardware, software, with a lot of the big industry names. So Siemens, Digital Compact, back along the line, and then software companies that I've worked for, SAP and Oracle largely, and Unit 4. So that's kind of been my background in kind of sales and sales management as well, in the lead up to me coming to Henley. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, lovely. Oh, brilliant. And what got you into that field? What interested you to go down that route?
I've kind of as a kid, I grew up in a family of engineers, and so I kind of was tinkering with PCs and whatnot when the Apple Macs and very, very early days. And yes, I kind of fell into the engineering route. But, what brought me to Henley really is that, if I go back to secondary school, I never actually did some of the basics. I never did economics, or I never did bookkeeping or accounting or business studies in secondary school. And that kind of pushed me up the trajectory really of kind of maths, computer science, and engineering, industrial engineering, basically. But I always felt quite inept, really, that if somebody handed me, an annual report, to be quite honest, I might as well have been reading the Beano. I was totally illiterate when it came to, business lingo, around what would typically appear in a management or an annual report. So how I ended up coming to Henley, really, the entree was dark insofar as that I got made redundant from my job at SAP after 9/11. The software industry took a bit of a nosedive. So it was a very dark day insofar as kind of like, oh my God, what am I going to do now? I'm in Ireland, very small market, and will I get another job? And the sky was falling in on me until I kind of said, like, hang on, I've lived out of suitcases. I've been on planes, trains, and moving around with my job a lot, to the point where I never really could have focused on doing any kind of a business qualification, right? Because my job took me all over. And, when doing a business qualification part-time, you'd have to be in college at, Wednesday nights or Saturdays or whatever. And just the two were quite incongruent. So being made redundant, I got a bit of a redundancy package. I had savings, and I kind of took a step back. But all of the Irish MBAs were full. They started in September, and it was quite serendipitous, really, that one of my friends in SAP in the UK happened to ring me one day. And I remember I was sitting in my garden, reading the newspaper with a glass of, wine. And I said, well, I've got to knock that on the head, because all of the Irish MBAs are full. And she basically said to me, hang on there. Right, there are two MBAs in the UK that start in January, and it was like one of the biggest light bulb moments of my life, So I applied to both, being, Henley and Ashridge, and interviewed in both, and I got in. I was accepted in both, but why did I choose Henley? It was I had a hunger and a curiosity, really, for how business was done in different jurisdictions. So it was the fact that it was like a gap year in my mid-30s to do an MBA. That was centered out of Henley, but we went to Barcelona on study weeks. We went to Melbourne, Kuala Lumpur. We went to Atlanta. So it was a very immersive life experience, looking at kind of the business, the political dimensions in all of those different jurisdictions. And that's what kind of lit my fire really, around, you know, moving lock, stock and barrel from where I live just outside Dublin, relocating to Henley, where I still live, to follow that dream, you know. So it was the easiest big decision I've ever made in my life, and the best one. But it's interesting at the time, you know, different family members and friends saying, you know, you know, like, you can do this a lot more cost effectively, by going to, you know, open university. And I'm kind of going, you're missing the point. You know, I just wanted to take time out and, you know, be able to concentrate, you know, on this 7 days a week like it was my job, and just fully immerse myself in the experience. And yes, it wasn't cheap even by modern day standards, because I was self-funding, but it took my life in a trajectory that I've never regretted, making that decision. You know, it was life changing in a positive way. Yeah. Um, so it was interesting, you know, as I say, when I went in to do my MBA, I was coming in feeling financially illiterate in particular. Yeah. And that was the one thing that I really wanted to get out of it. But it was a very interesting, 360 learning experience, really, about myself and my own skills. That, you know, in my job, I'm in, you know, sales and marketing, and, you know, I'm used to kind of gathering lots of information and ideas and packaging them, and, you know, putting them in, you know, a proposal or a report or a presentation, and selling it to people, you know. And they're skills that I've taken for granted all throughout my career, but, you know, and assumed that everybody can do that. But no, like, we had, in the groups that we were broken up into, there was like a mix of, you know, people from different countries, different industries, different walks of life, different educational backgrounds. And, you know, they brought other things to the table, you know, and I invariably ended up being the, you know, editor in chief in the group, you know, kind of collating the content and, you know, helping to present it back. So it was a very interesting 360-degree, review of my own skills. And yes, I did pick up some of the financial, you know, literacy. I probably could have used it more in my career, but, you know, I've kind of gravitated back to, as I say, the 360-degree view to, you know, actually what I do, I'm pretty good at it, and, you know, work to my strengths really, and leverage others for, you know, the wider experience around, you know, knowledge around the finance bit. While it's not being, you know, I've graduated from it not being like reading the Beano anymore, you know, the financial stuff. So it's a very good rounded experience, basically.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's lovely. It's such a inspiring story, you know, going from such a small community in Ireland and then going out into the big world really, and then going to all these different countries, and then, you know, finding yourself, knowing your strengths and going from there. It's great to hear. That's amazing. So then going to now, how has Henley impacted and supported you throughout this journey that you've described, and also throughout your career?
Uh, that's an interesting, question. As I say, kind of just having had that luxury to take a step back from, and get off of the fast treadmill in, you know, the large IT corporates, kind of gave that time, valuable time, for reflection really. And, you know, having, you know, like, some of my cohort that I did my MBA with are lifelong friends still, and we're still in touch. And, you know, I'd use them as sounding boards, very often, you know. And we go to each other's houses at weekends and shoot the breeze about life and about work generally. And, you know, so that's been, a very valuable experience. Um, how I've kind of come back around to engaging with Henley, even though I only live a couple of miles from, you know, where I did my MBA. In my last, job, I was a sales director for Oracle in Reading, and, Hugh Langford, who was in the BD side, at Henley Business School, reached out to me. So we ended up getting, a strategic partnership in place with Oracle around, you know, areas of technology development where we could kind of co-innovate between the University of Reading and also around kind of the alumni piece and doing, you know, talks and different alumni engagements. So, you know, that was, what would I say, interesting, you know, having been a student sitting in the auditorium, you know, 20 years ago, to have been up on stage, you know, talking to students and bringing in some of our at the time interns and whatnot, and them talking about their experience of working with you know, in big corporate. So it was about giving back, really, as well. That, you know, I've been very fortunate with the help and support that I've had from my cohort when I did my MBA, but also with the, you know, different other people, you know, at Henley that I've engaged with, you know, since leaving and doing my MBA. So, you know, Liz Holdsworth, Shahina, you know, and Paolo and others as well, you know. So, yeah, it's about giving back that, you know, I've been fortunate to be able to fund it myself. It was a big outlay at the time and for a while after, but, you know, helping others along the way, you know, coaching and mentoring and, you know, contributing financially as well, where I can, to help others who may not have had the financial wherewithal to finance it themselves.
Brilliant, lovely. You mentioned about that sense of community that you have with members from your cohort that you at Henley. I just wanted to, maybe if you can just speak a little bit more about that community. How is it now that you are obviously not at Henley anymore, but how is that community still very tight? Do you still communicate often with them? And how does that help you now in your career, that community, that sense of community after you've left Henley?
So we're all kind of coming up to the latter end of our careers in a way, you know. We're probably, you know, 10, 15 years away from our career end. So we're, you know, kind of in a different stage really, but equally we're all very busy. Careers have been going very well. The support is probably as much more social, I would think, and
Yeah.
about life. You know, like one of my MBA friends, Sue Brownlow, you know, when we were doing the MBA, you know, our bond really, the essence of it was around swimming, you know, and we were going around all over the world. You know, if one of us was in a bit of a slump, you know, I'm stuck in this project, or, you know, the world's falling in, you know, there'd be a knock on the door, come on, we're going for a swim, you know. And that friendship and that bond is very deep, to the point where, you know, we do big outdoor swims. We swam the width of Lake Balaton last year. We were both swimming a 3 mile loop around Liberty Island in New York in September. So it's a bond of deep friendship, as well as, you know, shooting the breeze about business issues as well, you know. And then others that were in our cohort, you know, we're all on LinkedIn and Facebook, and we're keeping track of each other and, you know, pitching in where appropriate, you know. But, you know, not beyond the bounds of picking up the phone if there was a business issue where I know, yeah, so and so who I did my MBA with would have expertise around that. Yeah, let me shoot the breeze with them, you know.
Lovely. Brilliant. Thank you for that. Yeah, that's really interesting to hear. Because obviously as a uni student myself, it's kind of nice to know that I feel like the people that I've been studying with, I'll know when I'm doing my own career later on. So thank you for that.
No
Um,
problem.
so why have you chosen to support Henley as a donor? I know you mentioned a little bit beforehand, but if you maybe, yeah, will speak a bit more about this.
Uh, how why have I, well, as I say, there's part of it that I was directly asked, would I, and I said yes, you know. And a lot of it is that you know, I don't have children, and, you know, I've been fortunate in, albeit that I've been self-funded. I know that there will be other people out there who may not, they may have other financial pressures, of children, or, with the cost of living crisis, where they could really, really benefit with a life-changing opportunity like doing an MBA at, Henley, and it helps them along the way, the financial contribution, but with mentoring and all of that as well. Very happy to support in that way. Yeah. Every
Thank
little
you.
bit adds up,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Thank you. So we have a last question here. So what are your motivations for giving? And also the last thing that I think is quite important is, why would you encourage others to support Henley Business School?
Well, it's 20 plus years since I did my MBA, and I'm sure that it has evolved, as business has changed, and AI, and, just the world of business has changed, particularly since COVID, and, with the technology advancements. Yeah. Um, why would I encourage others? For me, it was life changing. I just had a hunger for, knowledge and understanding how business is conducted in different jurisdictions across the globe. And I think anybody with a healthy curiosity around business, it's life changing. Yeah, if they can afford the opportunity of doing it financially, and with family commitments and whatnot. Yeah, you can go away and do Open University, or, there will be other universities that will do good MBAs part-time. I've seen others do them part-time whilst trying to keep busy jobs and families on the go as well, and it's crucified them. So if you can have the luxury of just taking a step off the fast lane, think about business differently, yeah, and just having that time to reflect, which you won't necessarily have, if you're in a busy corporate job and you're trying to balance other life commitments. Yeah. And just the Henley, as I say, the reason I chose Henley at the time was just that all-round experience. It wasn't just doing an MBA, within a particular city or town limits. It was a global international MBA, and that's what sold it to me. It was the biggest life decision I ever made, like that. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so well. Thank you so much for your time. That was, such an inspiring conversation. And I hope that this inspires alumni and, other members of our community to support Henley Business School, such as like myself. I feel like you must have heard this a lot of times, but your support, not only financially, but also, through your dedication with time, also for getting involved in activities like this, is immensely valuable. So I just want to extend my gratitude for your support. But thank you again for your time. And I hope you also had fun, discussing this and going into detail about your background, and just connecting with us again was nice. So thank you.
Best of luck with your own studies as well, and your internship with Henley Business School. Yeah.
Thank you so much.